Hey guys, Hackers on here with another trophy hunting, achievement hunting, whatever you want to call it, type video. This time we're doing it for Grounded, the first one, since the second one just hit early access the other day. Super stoked on that. I wanted to get this video up before actually hopping into that one. I have been watching a little bit of footage, but for the most part going in blind to the next one. So excited there. I am curious though, because I know the first one stayed in early access for a really long time. I didn't play it until it was actually in 1.0, actually when it went to PlayStation. That's actually what you'll see in the background is all the little video reels of getting all the achievements, including the platinum, which does require an actual 100%, which is pretty rad. But the second one, I don't know, when you look at the sequel of a game, you know, they're able to pull in a lot of what was already in the first one. When you look at things like post-game and all the cool armor sets and different abilities and mutations and stuff like that. So I'm excited to see where it is now, but I'm also not typically a fan of playing stuff in early access because then, like, I don't know if I'll ever go back to it when it does hit 1.0. It's got to be something really good for me to do that. However, I will say Grounded 1 is hands down my most favorite survival craft game of all. Just barely ahead of things like Subnautica and the first Forest. So I've played Sons of the Forest. We'll get there eventually. But really awesome game. So I'm hoping that I'll play it now and be able to stick it out to the next one. But either way, we're going to talk a little bit about the game itself, right? Just in case you don't know what it is. Then we're going to talk mostly about what it's like getting the 100%. It's a pretty intensive platinum, as most survival crafts are, right? Especially because I tend to play these by myself, not with people, which I'm sure make it at least a little bit easier for resource gathering and boss fights and stuff like that. But either way, we'll talk about the 100%, and then we'll also talk about some of the trickier parts, if you do care about achievements specifically. That I know I had one hell of a time. I think this actually clocked me like 90 hours when it's supposed to be like a 60-hour 100%. So let's hop into it. I'm going to throw some stuff up on the screen for you guys based on a couple of subjective things, right? On PlayStation trophies, it's listed at a 5 out of 10. I don't know. The way I play survival games, I don't think it was a 5 out of 10. Maybe more like a 3 out of 10, depending on how you play. If you're trying to like zoom super quick and do everything skill-based, yeah, it's probably a little bit harder. But if you're cool with being patient and just like building yourself up, yeah, definitely not a 5 out of 10. 2 playthroughs bare minimum. We'll get to why one's just a post-game playthrough, but there's a little bit more tied to it than that. And then again, this is subject to who you are as a player, but this lists it at 60 hours for the full 100%. Again, I was at, I think, like 88 hours is what my app says on the PlayStation, but that's a little bit different for everybody. You know, you might do a lot of the survival stuff just because you enjoy it, and that's what I did, right? Wasn't just going straight for the achievements as fast as I could. Some games I'll do that, but some games I enjoy more, right? So the game itself, survival craft, just like a bunch of other things. My top things to point out are things like Subnautica, and Breathe Edge was one of my favorites, the Forest, Sons of the Forest, stuff like that, right? However, it's got the trope of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which I don't know why that's like one of my favorite tropes to see, and like shrunk down toy soldier type stuff. So I was super into this just from the premise alone. Obviously, all your enemies are going to be just normal bugs, but they are 10 times freakier because you're tiny, especially since most of us are scared of spiders, because fuck those dudes. They're not scary. It's just that I know if they were people-sized, they would eat us on purpose, and they would want to. So that's like, fuck you, dude, right? Anyways, yeah, so you got like ladybugs, moths, ants, you got stink bugs, praying mantises, a bunch of cool bosses, right? Bunch of cool stuff. And you'll have to interact with all of them. There's actually a couple missable trophies because of that kind of stuff too. But yeah, solid progression. You typical like tier 1 mats and tier 1 resource farmables like pickaxe, shovel, hammer, axe, stuff like that, right? You go into your resource tier 2, tier 3, typical progression for any kind of survival craft, right? But outside of that, though, really solid story too. Usually survival crafts don't have like the best stories, but a really great story if that's the kind of stuff you care about. 2 endings, actually, a good ending and a bad ending, and the bad ending is pretty damn bad. Actually, I won't spoil it, but not hard to get the good ending either. You don't need the 100% for the good ending. You just got to beat a certain boss. But hopping into the trophies or the achievements, whatever platform you're on. So straight up, you're going to beat the game. Throw that on there. You're going to get a bunch of pretty straightforward stuff. Completing all the labs, that's all story-based stuff. You're gonna hit things like brain power, which is required for research and having recipes and things of that nature. You'll craft your first tier 3 item. You'll analyze things, stuff that you're just gonna do as you're playing the game, right? Stuff that I don't want to call it unmissable, but it'd be really wild if you didn't get some of this stuff, right? List is on the screen, so that way you can kind of get an idea of what that's looking like. Now, the second step would be kind of like, I don't want to call it miscellaneous per se, but getting the rest done is going to be more things that you have to specifically go out of your way for, right? Like equipping matching sets of armor, taming bugs as pets. Like, you don't have to do that kind of stuff. You can easily beat the game without it. Not even like any kind of crazy speedrun strats or anything like that. Crafting tier 3 arrows, killing all the bosses. You could totally beat the game without killing the bosses, which is crazy, but the bosses are pretty damn challenging. But the rewards, like what you can craft from the bosses, god damn, they're super awesome. But before you move on to the last step of getting all the achievements, which is just playing through a New Game Plus in their New Game Plus mode called Remixed, you want to make sure you get 100% on your first playthrough. And that's because the 100% becomes a bigger 100% when you go into New Game Plus, because there's a lot more recipes that you need to have unlocked to be considered 100% and all sorts of stuff like that. And it takes a lot of currency, like a lot of currency. So definitely do your 100% on your first playthrough. Where that gets a little bit tricky is that you need a lot of stuff. I'll go ahead and throw everything up on the screen now just so you can see. But what's really tricky is that you need to have all the lore items, all the data items, right? And there's a list, sure, but there are several that are also intentionally hidden as like secret lore bits. And it was just annoying. I tried to you have to beat the game, save before you beat the game, and then you have to interact with the last thing, and then you get a little scorecard, report card at the end that tells you if it was 100% or not. I swear to God, I had to do that like 5, 6, 7 times, just eventually finding a new item that I didn't have before, trying to look up a million different Reddit threads of like, what could I have missed? It was super annoying. So just do your best to track every single thing that you can, because that part is super tricky and you don't want to have to do that again in New Game Plus on top of all the new recipes and stuff like that. So make sure you do your 100% run on your first playthrough. Second one is just going to be, again, it's grow big again. It's beating the game on the New Game Plus difficulty. You can rush it so quick. Some of the bosses might be a little bit hard depending on your skill level if you haven't really interacted with the New Game Plus mechanics to further upgrade a lot of your weapons and armor. It can be kind of tricky there, but there's also a lot of cool builds you can do. There's like pet builds. There's a build for every class, like mages, assassins, rangers, melee is what I did for everything, but there's tons of cool stuff to help you get through it. And you'll already know, so you're literally just rushing for the super chips, which is the main story. You're helping a robot get his memories back, which also teaches you a bunch of recipes for cool buildables and stuff like that, right? So after you do that, cool, you've done everything. That'll be 100%. However, a couple missables to keep in mind, and you could do this on either playthrough, but again, if you do it on the second on your New Game Plus, then you'll need to get the 100%, which is even more. So preferably on the first one. There are a couple missables. It's gotta peep them all in Super Win. Gotta peep them all. There's a little mechanic where you can like do that and just find out what a bug is, what its weaknesses are. You get a little card. You got to do that to every bug in the game, or every enemy in the game, let's say. And there are a couple bosses that you can't do it if you've killed them, so you have to peep them first. So it is technically missable because they are story bosses, so you can't resummon them. All the optional bosses you can summon at your leisure to farm them out and get all the cool stuff they have. Story bosses, you can't do that. So you got to make sure that you peep those right off the rip. And then the other one is, again, it's that Super Win that I already listed, the 100%, just because peeping everything is also part of the 100%. So you have to make sure you grab it there. Outside of that, though, you can technically just keep rolling on New Game Pluses. It goes in cycles and gets harder and harder and harder, but like, why do that to yourself? It is a great game. I loved playing through New Game Plus, but it's yeah, it's not something that you would want to try and keep doing on your secondary playthroughs over and over and over and over. So overall, Grounded, again, my all-time favorite survival craft game. Super stoked for the second one. Really nervous that, you know, I'm going to start it now and there's not going to be enough content, and then, you know, next patch will release and I'll be like, oh, I'll get around to it. Next patch will release, oh, I'll get around to it, and then eventually not, right? But either way, thanks for hanging out, guys. If you dig the video, dropping a like, comment, subscribe would be awesome. Helps the algorithm gods. And I appreciate you guys. Take it easy and stick around for my Grounded 2 video. See ya. Love you now. Bye.